Imagine the strongest sorcerer in the world standing on a small island in the middle of nowhere, wearing a 50-pound turtle shell on his back, delivering milk on a bicycle at 5 in the morning. This is the scenario we need to think about seriously, because the question is not as ridiculous as it sounds. What if Satoru Gojo, special grade sorcerer, bearer of the six eyes, the man whose mere existence forced cursed spirits to evolve just to survive in the same reality as him, had been trained not by the Gojo Clan, not by Jujutsu High's curriculum, but by the Turtle Hermit himself, Master Roshi of the Turtle School of Martial Arts? Gojo Satoru was born with two things that had not appeared together in the same person for 400 years: the Limitless technique, an inherited ability that brings the concept of infinity into physical reality, and the Six Eyes, a rare genetic gift that allows him to see and manipulate cursed energy at an atomic level. The Limitless creates an invisible infinity barrier around Gojo's body. Anything approaching him slows infinitely, mathematically unable to close the distance and make contact. He is, by every practical measure, untouchable. And because the Six Eyes process cursed energy with almost zero waste, he essentially never runs out of power. He is the closest thing his world has to a permanent, unstoppable force. The problem with being born the strongest person in the world is that nobody can teach you anything. Gojo's training at Jujutsu High was never about pushing his limits, because his limits were so far beyond everyone else's that pushing them was mostly a solo endeavor. And somewhere in that gap between his potential and his refinement, some very interesting questions live. Now consider Master Roshi, an old man, a pervert, a hermit who lives on a tiny island with a turtle and an enormous collection of magazines. He looks at every possible glance like the opposite of a credible martial arts instructor. And yet he is the man who taught Goku, who taught Krillin, who trained two of the most powerful fighters their universe ever produced, starting from children with no formal training, and shaped them into world-class competitors through a curriculum that involved delivering milk, plowing fields, doing construction work, swimming away from sharks, and wearing 50-pound turtle shells while they did all of the above. Roshi's philosophy, the Turtle Hermit Way, is one of the most underrated frameworks in all of shonen anime. Work hard, study well, eat and sleep plenty. Master the art of peace in addition to the art of war. The training was never about the exercises. It was about what the exercises built underneath the technique. The physical conditioning was building a body that could do extraordinary things without consciously trying. The schoolwork was building a mind that could make correct decisions under pressure. The mundane daily grind was building a discipline that did not depend on motivation, because motivation fluctuates and discipline does not. What Roshi understood, and what the Jujutsu world's formal training never quite articulated, is that the gap between talent and mastery is not closed by practicing your techniques. It is closed by becoming the kind of person who performs at their ceiling under the worst possible conditions. So what happens when you put these two together? Day 1, Gojo arrives at Kame house. He is, by this point, already aware that he is exceptional. The Six Eyes have been with him since birth, processing the world at a resolution nobody else can access. He arrives expecting something worthy of his ability. Roshi looks him over, asks him a few questions, hands him a turtle shell, and points at the bicycle. Here is what would actually happen next, and it matters. Gojo's power comes from his innate gifts, the Six Eyes, the Limitless. These are not trained into him. Nobody taught Gojo to see cursed energy in atomic detail. Nobody taught the Limitless to create infinity. These things exist regardless of his training. But what Roshi's training would have built is everything surrounding those gifts. The body conditioning that makes his physical movements match the speed his mind already processes. The mental discipline that stops the Six Eyes from becoming overwhelming. The studied calm that separates a genius from a genius who makes mistakes under pressure. And the humility, perhaps most crucially, that a person who has been told since birth that they are the strongest tends to lack in exactly the moments it matters most. Gojo's greatest weakness in canon is not a technical one. His technique is nearly perfect. His weakness is psychological. He is so used to being untouchable that when something finally finds a way through, his framework for responding to genuine adversity is underdeveloped compared to his framework for dominating every situation he enters. Roshi's training does not produce technically perfect fighters. It produces fighters who know exactly how to lose, how to adapt, and how to keep going anyway. Goku lost the World Martial Arts Tournament under Roshi's instruction, deliberately, because Roshi entered as Jackie Chun to ensure his students could not win yet. Not to embarrass them, to give them something more to train for. The best teacher Gojo never had was not someone who could match his power. It was someone who could make him sit with his limitations for long enough to actually find them. The Turtle Hermit Way would not have made Gojo more powerful. His power is already complete. What it would have built is the version of Gojo who, when the one thing he never expected finally happened, had a framework for meeting it. Not the version who fights like the game is already won. The version who fights like every second is the one that matters. It is what 50-pound turtle shells and pre-dawn milk deliveries do to a person who has never once in their life been genuinely humbled by the world they live in. Work hard, study well, eat and sleep plenty. Master the art of peace in addition to the art of war. Satoru Gojo is already the strongest, but the Turtle Hermit might have been the one who taught him what that actually means.